Good afternoon, students. Am I audible? Can anyone reply? Students, good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, very good afternoon, students. So I thought after lunch, you people have slept. Okay. Can you see the slide? Can anyone reply yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me see. Anyone is waiting. Okay. Students, we were discussing, team leadership. That was Unit 4 of Organization Leadership, wherein in the previous class we understood regarding the use of teams in organization, and we even understood, the types of teams, then the decision making in teams, then we even understood the leadership skills for effective team meetings. But in today's class, let me explain you about conducting meetings. See, the leader should determine the appropriate leadership style for the meeting. So, what we understood was each agenda item may need to be handled differently. For example, some items may simply call for disseminating information. Others require a discussion, or it can be a consensus, while other items require a simple, quick report from a member and so forth. So when we are calling for a meeting, an effective way to develop group members' ability is to rotate the role of the group moderator or leader for each meeting. See, in today's session, we'll try to understand conducting meetings in a very effective way. So how exactly, being a team leader, the meeting should be organized and the involvement of each member in the team should be there in the meeting. So here, the first meeting, please see the slide over there. At the first meeting, the group is in the orientation stage. The leader should use the high task role. However, the member should be given the opportunity to spend some time getting to know one another, right? That's very important. So, introductions set the stage for subsequent interactions. And a very simple technique, please understand this, a very simple technique is to start with the introductions, right? Then move on to the group's purpose and the objectives and members' job roles. And sometime during or even following this procedure, have a break. That's very important. Otherwise, what happens? Your complete meeting will be bored. See, half an hour or first, half an hour, there'll be a high level of concentration. But later, what happens? The meeting gets bored because since it will be moving in a direction. So what happens? Sometime during or following the procedure, have a break that enables members to interact informally, to know one another, each other. Very important. If members find that their social needs will not be met, so dissatisfaction may occur very quickly, students, right? And then after that, we will understand the three parts of a meeting. Please remember this. The first one is called as identifying the objectives of the meeting. And the second part of a meeting is called covering the agenda item. And the third one is called as summarizing and reviewing the assignments. So we'll try to understand each part of the meeting in detail. So when I say identifying objective, see, begin the meeting on time. That is very important. When I say 2 p.m., it has to be 2 p.m. It has to begin within the stipulated time. Otherwise, what happens? Waiting for late members penalizes the members who are on time and develops a norm for arriving late. So it develops an habit. So begin by reviewing process up to date. That means whatever targets have been achieved or whatever you want to review, that has to be reviewed initially. And the group's objectives and the purpose or objective for the specific meeting. So there is something called as minutes of meeting, right? After each meeting, The team leader or an assigned individual will be recording the objective of the meeting and the outcome of that particular meeting and what should be achieved before you come to the next meeting. Everything should be recorded, and what all items was discussed in the meeting, that will be recorded over there, right? So if minutes are recorded, they're usually approved at the beginning of the next meeting. So for most meetings, it is recommended that a secretary to be appointed to take the minutes. So what he or she will be doing is, so he or she will be noting down the important points that was discussed during the meeting, so that at the end, he or she can summarize what all things were discussed in the meeting, and in the next meeting also that will be briefed to all the members of the who are attending the meeting. And the second important part of a meeting, it's called as covering agenda items. See, be sure to cover agenda items in priority order. Try to keep to the approximate times, but be flexible. That's very important. See, what do you mean by flexible here? Say, if the discussion is constructive and members need more time, give it for them. However, if the discussion is more of a destructive argument, then we have to ignore that and move ahead. See, when I say, destructive, that means criticizing someone or having a wrong argument with someone. So immediately what you have to do, you have to go for the next agenda, right? And then the last part of the meeting, it's called summarizing and reviewing the assignments. What happens here, when I said 2 to 3, I need to end the meeting exactly at 3 or before that. Right? If I extend too much, then what happens? People will completely, they cannot concentrate. So we have to end the meeting on time, and the leader should summarize what took place during the meeting. Please understand this. Were the meeting's objectives achieved? So he has to ask a question to himself as well for all the members who are attending the meeting, and review all of the assignments given during the meeting, and even get a commitment to the task that each member should perform for the next or a specific future meeting. The secretary or a leader who has recorded, the minutes, what I told you, should record all the assignments. And if there is no accountability and follow-up on assignments, members may not complete them, right? So a deadline should be fixed for each and every task. Then in the next meeting immediately, so that the progress of that particular task should be asked for the concerned member. Otherwise, what happens? The members might think that, okay, the only deadline will be fixed, but there is no follow-up for that. So they might ignore your given task, right? So everything should be accountable here. Otherwise, what happens? If there is no accountability and follow-up on assignments, members may not complete them, right? So these are the 3 important parts of a meeting. That is, the first one is called identifying objectives, and the second one is called covering agenda items, and the third one is called summarizing and reviewing the assignments. And the team leader needs to focus on group structure, process, and development. See, when I say he has to focus, as stated, the leadership style needs change with the group's level of development. The leader must be sure to provide the appropriate task or maintenance behavior when it is required, when it is needed. Next, we'll move to the next slide. Handling problem members. This is very common thing in each and every meeting, but how to handle them? That is a very, very Herculean task, right? See, first we'll try to understand who are these problem members. See, as members work together, personality types tend to emerge. See, as students, I think you might have observed in your class only, so many people think in different angles. We cannot expect everyone to think in the same way, right? Every individual on this earth will be unique, and his style is different. The way he thinks is different. His personality is different, right? So certain personality types can cause the group to be less efficient than possible. So some of the problem members you may have in your group can be like, simply silent, or talker, wanderer, bored, and arguer. We'll try to understand how they actually create, the problem, or what are the personality types of an individual whom you feel that he's actually a problem creator, right? So first we'll try to understand silent. See, silent means, I think you have observed, to have a fully effective meeting, all the group members should participate, right? If members are silent, the group does not get the benefit of their input. So it is the leader's responsibility to encourage the silent member to participate without being obvious or overdoing it. And how exactly the leader can do that? One technique the leader can use is the rotation method, right? In which all the members take turns giving their input. So this method is generally less threatening than directly calling on people. Suppose if 10 people are there in the meeting, so what I do is I start from number 1, I go on a rotation basis, and every member of the particular team who is actually participating in the team should actually come out with the input. Right. So when you believe they have convictions, ask them to express them, and watch their non-verbal communication as indicators of when to call on them. And if you are a silent type, try to participate more often. So know when to stand up for views and be assertive. And students, silent types generally do not make good leaders, right? So please understand this. What we are understanding now, handling problem members. So some of the problem members you may have in your group are the following, which can be silent, talker, wanderer, bored, and arguer. So first one is silent, what we understood now. The second one is talker. See, talkers have something to say about everything, about each and every point. So they like to dominate the discussion. They try to grab others' attention. So they want to create their presence. Everybody should know their presence, or everybody should understand that, okay, this person is there. He will come with an argument. So, however, what happens if they do dominate, the other members do not get to participate, right? The talker can cause intra-group problems such as low cohesiveness and conflicts. So it is the leader's responsibility to slow talkers down, not to shut them up. Please understand that. So immediately what happens? The leader should tell them, okay, we will give a chance to each and everyone. We will move to the next person, something like that. Instead of that, the leader cannot simply say that, shut your mouth, because it hurts his ego, right? So as a leader, do not let them dominate the group. So here also the rotation technique is also effective with the talkers. So they have to wait for their turn, then only you can allow them to speak. So when not using a rotation method, gently interrupt the talker and present your own ideas, or call on other members to present their ideas. So what happens? Good leaders, they develop others' abilities in these areas. I think we have encountered people who are silent in the group. We have encountered people who actually are very talkative in the group, right? And the third is called, wanderer. So wanderer, what they do is, wanderers normally they distract the group from the agenda items. Suppose our agenda is 5, the core things to be discussed in the meeting. So these people, they take it out of the box. We start discussing something else, which is not our agenda, right? So they tend to change the subject and often like to complain. So what happens? The leader is responsible for keeping the group on track. On track means what? Only the discussion should happen in tandem with the agenda. So if the wanderer wants to socialize, cut it off. That's very important. So if you tend to be a wanderer, try to be aware of your behavior and stay on the subject at hand, right? That's very important. See, the leader is responsible for keeping the group on track. As I mentioned to you, if the wanderer wants to socialize, cut it off. Be kind, thank the member for the contribution, then throw a question out of the group to get it back on track. That's very important. So complaining will not get us a rise. So let's get back to the issue at hand. Right? So that is the third type. Next, we have fourth one that is called board. See, when I say board, your group may have one or more members who are actually not interested in the job. So the board person may be preoccupied with other issues and not pay attention or participate in the meeting. So the board member may also feel superior. See, sometimes it so happens that whenever we are discussing some issue with the team members, they'll be ignoring you. They feel like, what is this? I know everything, but in spite of that, they're telling all these things to me. Right? So what happens? That attitude, you can see that face. So the board member may also feel superior and wonder why the group is spending so much time on such a simple issue. He feels like that. So the leader is responsible for keeping members motivated. So if you tend to be bored, try to find ways to help motivate yourself. Work at becoming more patient and in control of behavior that can have negative effects on other members. Because see, students, one thing is when a leader will be sitting in the middle and taking the meeting over there, face is the index of mind. See, your facial expressions will tell us whether what type of personality or what exactly you are thinking about. Then comes arguer. See, like the talker, the arguer also likes to be at the center of attraction or attention. So this behavior can occur when you use the devil's advocate approach, which is helpful in developing and selecting alternative courses of action. However, students, arguers enjoy arguing for the sake of arguing rather than coming out with the solution. Then what they do is they turn things into a win-lose situation and they cannot stand losing. So what the leader should do here, the leader should resolve the conflict, but not in an argumentative way. So do not get into an argument with arguers. So that is exactly what they want it to happen. So if an argument starts, bring others into the discussion, and if it is personal, you please cut it off. See, personal attacks only hurt the group. So keep the discussion moving on to target. So if you tend to be an arguer, strive to convey your views in an assertive debate format, not as an aggressive argument. And please understand, listening is an art. I'm repeating, listening is an art. The person who has got a lot of patience will always listen to others. So listen to others' views and be willing to change if they have the better ideas. See, we in our life might have encountered several such personalities, right? So how to handle that? That is very, very important. Students, am I audible? Can anyone reply?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then after that, the last part here is working with group members. See, whenever you work in a group, do not embarrass, intimidate, or argue with any members, no matter how they provoke you. See, this provoking attitude will be there with your friends or with your leader, with your with your managers. So if you do, what happens? The result will make a martyr of them and a bully of you to the group. So if you have a serious problem, members who do not respond to the above techniques, confront them individually outside of the group. So get them to agree to work in a cooperative way. Make them understand and realize that only if we work in the team as a complete team, as a united team, then only we can achieve. Make them realize that. So that is working with group members. Now after that, we will try to discuss SMT, that is called as self-managed teams. So please understand, students, when we say about self-managed teams, Worldwide, companies, it can be big and small, they face serious challenges from a dynamic and complex global economy. And the challenges that render traditional work methodologies, work methods ineffective. To effectively and efficiently address these challenges, organizations are thinking the organizing structures upon which their operations are based. So here, old concepts of hierarchical leadership, centralized decision making, functional specialization, and individualized reward systems are being replaced with new, more flexible and adaptive structures. And students, as already I discussed, management styles have shifted from the lone ranger model of leadership to participatory management practices. And even the task structures have gone from the functional specialization to group, and now team formats have come up. And when I use the use of teams has become the competitive weapon of choice for many business and even non-business organizations, with many of these companies opting for a new form of performing work called the self-managed teams. It's called SMT. See what happens in case of self-managed teams. Decision making authority in many areas of accomplishing the team's assignment is left to the individual members who make up the team. So the decision maker will be assigned to the individual team members of that particular team. See, self-managed teams go by many different names in the organizations. So it can be self-directed, self-maintaining, self-leading, and even self-regulating teams. So the concept itself is not new, students. Some of the potential motivational effects of self-managed management on a company's employees are evident. And students, please understand, an immediate result was the change in employee attitudes and motivation, because every member of a team is held responsible for the result and he will be taking the decision. So it is self. So instead of team members only worrying about being responsible for their individual quality, they now took the responsibility for the effect their quality had on the customer. So because of the increasing use of self-managed teams in organizations, much attention has been devoted to understanding how best to design and launch them in order to maximize their efficiency and even effectiveness. Right? Next, we'll try to understand some of the following characteristics which are not exclusive to SMT member. So before understanding this, what are the nature of a self-management teams? We'll try to understand that. See, in the quest to remain competitive in new product or service development, companies are finding out that effective managing of human interactions and rapid transfer of technology and ideas among the individual and functional group is a prerequisite to success. Correct? See what happened? Self-managed teams differ from traditional teams. All of you know that in a number of ways. How? Traditional teams, management provides the team with the direction and maintains control over the work-related issues. Whereas what happened in case of SMT students, they have a significant amount of decision-making authority. And in self-managed teams, there is much role interchange as members learn to be the followers as well as the leaders too. So rather than being specialized, SMT members develop multi-skilled capabilities that make them very flexible in performing various tasks within the team. So the nature of self-managed teams is one of the group rather than individual empowerment and accountability. See, when I said team accountability means what? See, team accountability is a significant responsibility, especially since the SMT members determine how they will organize themselves to get the work done and are responsible not only for their own performance, but for that of other team members as well. And students, please understand, over past 15 years, an increasing number of US based companies have experimented with the self-managed teams. So a poll sponsored by Office Team, a national staffing service based in California, revealed that 93% of 150 managers from the large companies, they actually favored self-managed work teams to achieve their organization objectives. So self-managed teams, they give workers, especially non-managerial workers, a voice in making decisions about the design of work, as well as greater autonomy and discretion in the structure of their work. So in a self-managed team, members are charged with the duties such as managing themselves, assigning the jobs, planning, scheduling work, making production or service related decisions, and even taking action on problems. It is something like students. Now, we as a teacher, we are monitoring, we are telling you that this is the deadline. But what happens in self management teams? Students will start solving the issues. Students will start studying without anybody noticing them. Students will fulfill all the duties and responsibilities within the given deadline. So members, what they do here, they take the responsibility for outlining how they will achieve the team's objectives. So often teams will focus on what experts have described as 5 T's. I'm telling you 5 T's, which means project targets, specific project task, team membership, team membership, and then time issues, and even the territories that would lead to successful planning, design, and even the completion of specific projects. So self-managed team members share or even rotate the leadership responsibilities and hold themselves mutually responsible for a set of performance goals assigned by the senior management. Now, after understanding all this, what are the benefits of SMTs? Can anyone tell me? Any one benefit of SMTs? Anybody, student? What could be the benefit of self-managed teams in any organization for that sake? Yes. Anybody? Okay, all of you know the concept of self-management teams, right? See, a primary reason for growth in popularity of the self-management team concept are the reported benefits by organizations that have actually adopted it. See, what happens in case of self-management teams? Self-management teams are prized for bringing about results such as increased productivity, accelerated new product development and process improvements, then improved worker participation and decreased hierarchy. So this has led to increase in job satisfaction and organizational commitment, which in turn have been associated with other positive organizational and employee outcomes such as lower absenteeism rates, less turnover, and then more interdependence of objectives, and ultimately increase the level of profitability of the organization, right? So these are some of the important benefits of self-managed teams, that is called as SMT. Please see your students, this chart is very important. Explain the difference between the conventional and self-managed teams. See, when it comes to characteristics, that is leadership, self-managed teams within the team. Because what happens here? Within the team, the decision will be taken. Whereas in case of conventional teams, outside the team, there will be a manager. So he will actually take the decision. And in case of self-management team, team member role is interchangeable. Whereas in case of conventional, it is fixed. In case of self-management team, every member or the team is accountable for the success of a particular project. Whereas in case of conventional team, the individual, that is a manager who is in charge of that particular team, is accountable for that. And work effort is concerned, in case of self-management team, it is cohesive, whereas in case of conventional team, it is divided. And here task design is concerned, it is flexible in case of SMT, whereas in case of conventional team, it is fixed. Skills are concerned, since you will be working in various functional areas, you as an individual will be gaining a lot of knowledge, lot of skill, so it is multi-skilled. Whereas here, it is, you will be working only in one particular functional department, so you'll be specialized only in that particular area, right? So these are the major differences between the self-management managed teams as well as the conventional teams. As I already discussed with you, some of the key benefits of self-managed teams, which is actually growing at a faster pace in almost all the organizations. The first and the important thing is increase the productivity, students. So you can, this question can also be asked, explain the benefits of self-managed teams compared to the conventional team. See, greater improvements in quality will be happen, speed, process and innovation. Then after that, a sense of belongingness will be there, right? And ownership in one's work. And very important is greater employee motivation, because every particular individual is involved in the decision-making process, and every individual is involved, is accountable for the success or failure of a project, right? And accelerated new product development, greater employee participation will be there, and we can reduce the absenteeism. So reduced operational cost because of the reductions in managerial ranks and even the greater efficiencies, and greater employee job satisfaction, commitment, and even the productivity and lower turnover and absenteeism rates. So employee motivation levels and self-esteem will be much more higher in case of self-management teams, because you are giving a lot of weightage for an individual, his decision, his work. So what happens? You are trying to motivate an individual and trying to show that he is very important in this particular team because he is a self-managed team, right? And the reduction in managerial ranks throughout the organization. See, one study found that relative to teams that relied on external evaluations, teams with peer evaluations had higher level of workload sharing. Relative to teams that relied on a single leader emerging, teams that rotated leadership among leaders had a higher level of voice, cooperation, and performance. Because the respect will be there among each other. The reason is today you are the leader, tomorrow your colleague might be the leader. So respect for individual will be there. So a sense of belonging and ownership in one's work will be there. Greater employee motivation will be there. Accelerated new product development. Each employee will be participating in successful completion of a particular project. Then reduced operational costs because of the reductions in managerial ranks and even the greater efficiencies. And greater employee job satisfaction, commitment, and even the productivity, and lower turnover and absenteeism rates. See, also unique to the SMTs is the significance of a champion to SMT success. Therefore, SMT are one of the most effective way to manage the team. And then the basic corporate message communicated to all the SMTs at 3M is that 30% of 3M sales must come from products introduced within the previous 4 years. And the SMTs have responded with a remarkable success, helping the corporation leverage 100 core technologies into more than 60,000 products so far. See, so SMT plays a very vital role. And there are few guidelines for improving the self-management effectiveness. See, despite the documented success and benefits of SMTs, there is still much that needs to be done to improve their effectiveness. And many things can go wrong with self-managed teams, and adjusting to new behavioral expectations and can be difficult. So many SMT initiatives are eventually abandoned. For this reason, students, Studies have focused on identifying factors or conditions that are key to build high performance management teams. See, at the organizational level, there are important policies, then procedures, and even practices that are greatly enhance the effectiveness of SMTs. So, what are the basic guidelines? Ensure that the whole organization has changed its culture, structure, and even climate to support SMTs. So this will basically address the questions such as, does the self-management teams have sufficient autonomy to perform its task and have access to information? Are SMT participants motivated, stimulated, and supported in a fashion that breaks down walls and creates unity of purpose and action? And then we have the second important guideline, that is, have a well thought out vision of the way in which SMTs will fit into the scheme of the entire organization. And allow time after training for the team member to bond with one another and form the team skills. See, effective team building interventions can be used to break down barriers and create opportunities for cooperation. Provide adequate training so team member skills and experiences match the task requirements. So identify specific areas, students, that need improvement and develop solutions from a team-based perspective. So provide objective goals, incentives, and appropriate infrastructure. So self-management team participants should have a vested interest in clarifying team goals, designing team-based incentive and even the reward systems, and understanding each other's roles and improving their understanding of processes and systems that will be used. And ensure that the organization has the necessary resources to commit to this kind of change in time, money, and people, and create a sense of empowerment. So the self-management teams take the ownership of what they are doing and how they are doing. Say, for example, students, designating a team leader may help ensure that critical team management functions are accomplished in a timely fashion. So, however, if leadership responsibilities are rotated among the members, a climate of shared leadership may be fostered, and this should lead to the team feeling empowered. And next, we have to pay very close attention to team design decisions. See, what do you mean by this? As mentioned earlier, teams with the peer evaluations and rotating leadership among the members tend to have higher level of cooperation, performance, and member satisfaction. So develop team-based measurements and corresponding feedback methods that address the team performance. And very important, students, recruit and train the managers to act as a team facilitators or even the coaches. So this will be further elaborated on later as we explore the changing role of leadership in self-management teams. And very important, avoid overacting at the first sign of crisis. That means team building experts say company leaders should keep a stiff upper lip when an SMT starts experiencing problems, because the tendency is to overreact by pulling the plug on the new program or getting too involved. SMTs, they say, fluctuate like stocks. So even the blue chips with the excellent long-term prospects experience short-term troughs, right? In the same way. See, the best example to illustrate how the lack of managerial action in these areas can create problems during the implementation of SMT program is captured in the statement by Asia Brown Bovius, that is a former CEO. What he told, I found myself trying to implement third generation strategies through second generation organizations run by first generation managers. Right? I'm repeating once again. See, I found myself trying to implement the third generation strategies through second generation organizations run by first generation managers. So implementing these guidelines, whatever we discussed just now, will help eliminate the mismatches So the last concept here is the changing role of leadership in self-managed teams. I'll take not more than 5 minutes, students. Kindly concentrate the last concept here. See, it seems contradictory that a self-managed team would need a leader. After all, the concept implies that the team leads itself, right? So, however, the concept of a self-management team does not mean without management. So, self-managed teams require a different kind of leadership. So, with the broader organizational structure, the self-managed team must still receive direction and instruction from higher levels in the organization. So, that is the prime important thing here. So, effective external leaders are able to develop strong relationships both inside the team and across the organizational landscape. So, effective facilitators can empower their teams by demonstrating three behaviors, which can be delegating authority or exercising flexibility regarding team decisions and even the coaching. So what happens in case of distributed leadership here there? So in distributed leadership, multiple leaders take complementary leadership roles in rotation within the same self-managed team. So according to their area of expertise or interest. And here, some members, they like to work individually and some in a group. The disputes occur, this is where the self-management team facilitator can play a very, very significant role. And lastly, the self-managed team facilitator is the external leader of a self-managed team whose job is to create optimal working conditions. So, team members take on responsibilities to work productively and solve complex problems on their own. And SMT facilitated team building activities, which includes opening forums for resolving interpersonal conflicts, then creating opportunities for social interaction, then increasing mutual acceptance and respect among the diverse team members, and maintaining an open communication policy and highlighting a mutual interest, not differences of the team members. Then increasing the team identification through the use of ceremonies, rituals, and even symbols. And finally, using team-oriented incentives to foster the team network. See, these activities, that is the facilitated team building activities, should ensure that there is a strong identification with the team. So especially as a pride in the team's accomplishments grows. And also they will strengthen the cohesiveness and the level of mutual cooperation between the team members. So the type of leadership that is found inside the SMT, that is self-managed team, after an external leader has successfully steered the team into self-leadership and independence, which is described as shared leadership. And as the term implies, all members participate at critical points in the life of the project as leaders. And in effect, the goal of external team leader or facilitators is to constantly guide and develop their teams so that they become increasingly self-managing. So this is the complete, output of the self-managed team. Okay, students, I end the session here. Thank you so much for your patience listening.